I thought the skimorphic, am I saying that word right?
Skimorphic, yeah.
That was an interesting, we have to start again. We have to start again. I lost my thread. Go back.
Hello and welcome to Talking Too Loud with Chris Savage. I am your host, Chris Savage. I'm joined by Sylvie. What up, Sylvie?
What up, Savage?
What up? You know what? I was trying to start this by walking on my treadmill and you wouldn't let me. You said, don't ruin this by just walking in.
Really wasn't about ruining it. You were just making me jealous. You were walking and I was sitting.
Come on, that's not true.
How often are you walking on that thing these days?
I mean, so I have this treadmill. It's called a Treadly. It only goes 5 miles an hour top speed. But it's perfect for my standing desk. And I would say, like, how many hours a day?
Yeah, like...
I would say probably an hour and a half. For the last week, okay. I'll be walking on it. And then you just get too tired.
Is it making a difference?
For me, with remote working, I like to do phone calls while I'm on a walk. That is like kind of a thing I got into a rhythm of. We got a huge amount of snow. And so I can't really just like go do that thing.
Yep.
So it's nice to feel like I can be like slightly more active at my desk.
Stretch your legs on that Treadly.
Just stretch
We
them.
keep getting distracted with video. We have to introduce our guests at the top.
Oh, you're right. Yes, of course. Well, today we have Cesar Kuriyama, the CEO and founder of 1 Second Every Day on the show. Very excited to have him on with us. 1 Second Every Day is an app that people use to record their life, like record memories, and it's something really fun. I've done it. And as you can guess, Cesar's really into NFTs and somebody else is. So we're going to spend some time on NFTs today.
I feel like you've been waiting. You've been waiting for Cesar, knowing that he is your NFT partner in crime. And you guys are you're going to lean in. You're going to lean in and I'm going to let you.
Sylvie, I'm over here trying to learn.
I know.
I'm trying to learn from the best. And I think Cesar's like, one of those people who he goes in early and he goes in hard. He learns the stuff, he figures it out. So yes, I think we're going to get pretty deep, which is going to be good for me. I hope it's good for the listeners. We'll see. We'll see.
Besides NFTs though, what's got you talking too loud over there?
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Wordle right now.
Finally. That's what I've been waiting for.
Yes. I mean, things are moving fast out there, right? Here comes this game created this guy. What's his first name?
Josh.
I can't remember his name.
Josh
Wardle creates Wordle, the 5-letter word game where you have 6 chances to try to guess the word. Yep. It goes hyper viral.
That's a 5-letter word. Haven't had that one yet.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow. I mean, obviously, we all know the breaking news that the New York Times has purchased Wordle.
I've seen some interesting debate on Twitter about people who are like, yeah, Josh, get paid. And people who are like, no, Josh, why? This was such a pure game. And now it is tainted by the Times.
It's interesting to see that because I think like for, the fact that it's just on a webpage and isn't it like power language?
Yeah.
.co.uk
like, it's not an app. There are no ads.
Yeah.
It's something you can do only once a day. It was and is pure. And that was, I think, part of the appeal.
Yeah. And I think it's also, the fact that you can share how you arrived at the result and not ruin the game for others.
Yes.
Such a simple thing.
I know.
So simple, just so powerful.
Those little tiles,
what will they look like? Today I got it in 3, but the first guess, 0 letters, 3 from nothing. Or you can get a yellowless, no yellows at all.
No yellows.
Keep it all green. Yeah.
I tried doing this. It doesn't always work, but a reverse Wordle. So like my sister will send me her tiles, and I'll have to guess based on the tiles what her first word was. That's a good call. Try it out.
Okay, all right.
Sneaky.
Okay. It's very sneaky, very sneaky. I think it's interesting that Josh sold it. I think it makes perfect sense that he sold it to me. It's just like he did this as a side project. He did this for his girlfriend.
Right.
And then you have a thing that's hundreds of millions of people are using. and now you have to scale and support it and not disappoint them and all that stuff. Like, if you don't want to be scaling some big word business, it seems like somebody else who runs a word business should probably be the person to own it.
Definitely. Yeah, not everybody wants to turn their passion projects into the thing that they do day in and day out. But guess who does? Our guest.
That's a great transition. Our guest, Cesar, yes. He has a very interesting story of, his main business being starting completely as a passion project, and his new thing he's doing also starting as like a passion project. So I think, Sylvie, it's that time to jump in the episode.
Jump in. I don't know why I did that motion today, but I did it. It's because the video's on.
Yeah, I think that's why.
Let's go.
Cesar, it's been a little while, my man, but it is so good to see you. How are you?
Likewise, man. I'm good. It's been a very unique couple of years in every possible respect. But there's been waves of good and waves of bad, like any other year. So trying to make the best of it as usual.
When I think about you as someone who is like opportunistic, goes after exciting things left and right. I have so much I want to talk to you about in this episode. Or you just ADHD. Yes, there's many things I want to talk to you about in this episode. But first, as you know, this show is called Talking Too Loud because I cannot control the volume of my voice as I get excited. But we like to start by hearing about what's got you talking too loud. So what has got you talking too loud right now?
I've become one of those people who, you put me in a room with a bunch of people, and I'm like, what are you guys doing NFTs yet? Or can we talk NFTs? It's just been my obsession over the past year, and back when I started paying attention to the space, like probably December, I would say, of 2020. The space was like, you had to dig for information about anything. But then as things ramped up over the course of 2021, I just, it was a wave of human beings that kind of started arriving to the space every minute, it felt like. And now it seems like it's pretty mainstream. I can't get a tell.
Yeah, I don't even think it's... No, I think it's the knowledge of that NFTs exist, I think, is mainstream. I think people who actually use them to understand them and like have an idea of where they're going is not yet, in my opinion.
Yes. 100%. Yes.
Well, look, I want to get into that. I have a lot of things I want to talk about there, but I want to frame who you are and what you do and what you've been doing. And for the listeners who don't know, you're the CEO and founder of 1 Second Every Day. And as you know, I have used 1 Second Every Day years at a time of my kids growing up. And you basically record 1 second of video every day and just mash it together and get these incredible kind of like memory videos. And I started to realize, like, wow, you have this app that people can use to document their lives. And is also, I think you have a lot of experience helping people form habits and thinking about habits. And I thought you could just kind of maybe walk us through how you think about what 1 Second Every Day is today. I know that you've been the number one app in the App Store in many countries every New Year's. Talk to us about what that is and what that means.
I mean, as you know, this started out as an art project for me personally, as a means of trying to do a daily journal in some way, shape, or form, and that turned into, well, I've always been a video person. An iPhone now has a HD camera. This is like 2012, and being like, well, maybe I could do this with video instead of with words, and maybe I can do this in a way that is so short that it'll be, I can't have an excuse to not do it. So I was just doing that for myself, and that, of course, accidentally, quote unquote, turned into a tech company. I spoke at the TED conference. Everybody who saw that talk and got millions of views was like, I want to do this too. And I thought, hey, maybe I could build an app that makes it easy for anybody to do this. So the
app came after TED? I don't think I realized that.
Yeah. When I pitched it to TED, I had been at it for like 3 months. So I showed them like the first like 60 seconds, and I said, hey, I'm Like, this is just something I've decided to do for the rest of my life. And it just so happens that the next TED next year is a week after I'll finish the first, year. Their whole theme for that conference was called Full Spectrum, and they were trying to lean into multimedia presentations, like things that weren't just PowerPoint presentations. So I applied with that kind of pitch of, hey, like, I'm doing something that I think is very different than just a PowerPoint presentation. I had gotten to a point, even after just 90 days, I was like, oh, this is so easy to do, and it's having such a positive impact on my day-to-day life. So why stop? And it's so easy, and it brings so much value. And so it wasn't really until after TED that I was like, okay, maybe I should build an app. But even then, I thought I could just build it, put it on the App Store, and make a passive income on it while I worked on other projects. I went to art school. I was an artist. I've never built a business. The whole idea of raising money from investors, like, all that was alien to me. It took me a long time to get my bearings on the quote unquote VC space and all that stuff. And so the app, took over my life slow. Like, it took like 2 or 3 years for me to be like, oh, I think this is like, I've realized that I'm waking up every day and this is just like
this is my job. This is what I'm doing now.
I learned the hard way that, like, you don't finish technology. There was always a new version of the app. There was always a new iOS. There was always things that I wanted to do, snuck up on me, that I built a company, and I needed to, like, now kind of like lean into it, as opposed to trying to think that I could finish it.
I think that's a lesson a lot of people learn, is that technology is never done. Like, it's ready, and then guess what? All the stuff around you changes, and there's new stuff you can do, and there's new things that are enabled. And it's kind of like, if you can stay on the problem and keep innovating and keep changing, then you're all good. But if you don't, then you're not. And like, it doesn't seem like that, though. It seems like you make a simple thing and then it's done. And I mean, it's funny to hear you say, like, oh, I'm going to build this project, and now I'm going to build this app, and now I'm going to build this company, and then actually I am still doing it.
Yeah, it wasn't really until, I brought in a co-founder, and I brought in a full-time CTO, and I brought in a full-time CPO, on and on, like, actually built a team around everything, that, things got real, and I was like, oh, like, this is great. Like, we can actually do all the things that are in my head. Till this day, I'm still really passionate about everything that we have going on, and I think we were really lucky that we built the company in such a way without VC, without any of the traditional means, because when we launched in 2013, iPhone storage was like 8 gigabytes. There were no native ways to share video. Everything that makes what our app was like, the world didn't exist for that yet, and by sheer fact that we stayed profitable and nimble and scrappy, and as all these, the iPhone kept getting better and better, and as, like, the ability for it to share video became easier. When Instagram was like, oh, you could just put video in the feed, and I was like, oh, hallelujah. And Twitter started doing that, when Facebook started doing that, like, with all that ability and ease of sharing came every, like, inflection point for the company. So if we had just raised venture in, like, 2013, we would have been dead in 2015.
Totally.
But
well, you took your own path, and I know a lot about that, and it's a very nice place to be. 1 second every day is something that people build habits around. And I mean, it makes sense that, New Year's Day is the day people are like, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to go.
New year, new me.
Yep. New year, new me. Can you talk about, when does it actually work? When do habits work?
It's a couple of things. I think it needs to be easy. We're already recording videos and photos all the time, so like for us, it's really just about, like, weaponizing the stuff that's in your camera roll now, and making sure that, like, you're logging that into our app, and we have, like, a one-click way to just, like, fill up your calendar if you want. If you just want a head start, let our algorithm kind of do its thing. So I think that's a key one. The more friction it is to try to get somebody to, create a new habit, the more the harder time you're gonna have trying to get that person to do it. I think there's just desirability too. I think, how much do you want it? But usually, New Year's is our catch-all, because most people, it's just like the obvious, everybody is going to start their new year. But, like, there's multiple inflection points throughout the year that bring in, like, our kind of day-to-day downloads and conversions and everything, which is number one by far is babies. When a parent has a baby, like, they care more about capturing the life of their kid than they ever cared about
anything
their own
else.
life. It's a whole flip, the desire to capture those moments is far greater than their own.
That's when I started using it every day.
Yeah,
was
it's
when my first kid was born, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And then you just like watch her grow up.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a very emotional thing to watch, like, because you're selecting all these moments for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I think it also is like, for me, it's like it changes my memories almost. Like it's like there's certain things I'm like that, like little tiny moments that are fleeting, just like memories are fleeting, that bring me back. That is like very cool when you've like proactively chosen it. It's like, this is the stuff I want to remember versus like, I take photos and videos all the time. Sometimes those things pop up on my phone or whatever, but I feel like the fact that you can curate it is like a very interesting part of the app.
Yeah, the thing that is always hard to convey. I've never found a silver bullet to convey this to anyone, but most people before they start see people's 1 second every day videos, and the thing that I try to be conscious of trying to explain as best as I can is, like, it hits different when it's your moments, right? Like when you're just watching somebody else's stuff, you're just like, that's cool, I don't know. But when you actually know the actual context of every single moment that you're watching and they're all just flashing by, like the first time somebody sees like their full year, it's a whole different ballgame, and people tend to like, I just got a message from somebody just said 10 years. He downloaded the app like on day one, and those kinds of connections to it are a huge piece of it.
So you said you went to art school?
I went to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn.
And what kind of art did you do there?
I studied visual effects and animation, and I was like a 3D artist. My trajectory was I'm going to end up working at ILM for Lucas, Star Wars movies, or I'm going to end up at Pixar. Like the whole idea of being an entrepreneur sounded awful to me, like being in charge and like having to make decisions, like the hard I was like, I just want to work like a 9 to 5. I want to animate some cartoon characters. I want to go home and watch a movie. That's what I thought I wanted. But it wasn't really until I started working in the industry after I graduated that I realized, I actually don't have any creative control over what I'm doing. I'm basically just following orders and instructions. But I was working like 100-hour work weeks all the time too. So it wasn't even just like it wasn't even just the work. I was beholden to these deadlines. I had no life for a couple of years where my life was work. But I'm grateful because it broke me that lifestyle over the course of like 3 to 4 or 5 years, as that work kind of ramped up, was what instigated me being like, I need to find an exit strategy because this isn't what I want to do for the next like 40 years of my life.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like we're talking about something that's like not always discussed, which is that like when I heard the word entrepreneurship, like in college and like an entrepreneurship class, I'm like, who the fuck is that? Like, who thinks of that? Like, you think you're so great? Yeah. You just want to make a bunch of money? Like, that's so stupid.
People who want to get rich. That's what I thought when entrepreneur
exactly.
was. Yeah.
And like, I feel like it's like when you've actually done it and you're like, oh, it's creative problem solving. And it's like, if you're doing it right, you're constantly trying to solve big, hard problems. And often the creative things are like by far the best solution, right? Like you come up with the most creative thing and it's like, you get these 3 things done and it's free and it's cheap and it's delightful, whatever. And like, for me, I think that's what I found is like that it can be so rewarding.
100%. I can go on like 50 rants about this stuff too. Agree. Like I always used to think that I want to make a movie someday. And the thing about a movie is that like it's the amalgamation of like, so many art forms that you're trying to like balance into one. And then I became an entrepreneur and I'm like, wow, actually, this is even layers more, because you could get to the stage of having a movie, but then you have to be creative about the marketing, you have to be creative about how to sell it, how to manage the budget and produce it or whatever. Like the creative problem solving of an entrepreneur is actually like the pinnacle that I've been able to, where you're trying to balance out everything, the product, the business strategy around like how to monetize, like all that stuff is just creativity. Like how do we best position the price and the product or whatever to make the company stay alive.
Yeah, and I think it's also with a movie, if it's one concept and it's you go and you spend years on it and then you put it out there, and like depending on what's happening in society at that moment, to like you can hit it out of the park, where the same movie 2 months later can be a flop, right? Like that happens all the time. And I think about it as like almost like every year is a different movie. It's like every year is like, what are we building now? And what are we going to try to do? And it's not always going to hit, but at least you get many shots on goal. Like you get to keep trying. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, look, you're wearing the Bored Ape Yacht Club sweatshirt, so like the hoodie.
I knew you wanted to chat NFTs, so
Of course I do.
I thought it was appropriate to wear.
So I think it's important to transition when we've been talking about business and entrepreneurship, and also talking about your background. And we've started talking about NFTs on the show. I think we probably talked about like 7 episodes, and I can't help it. I can't help but talk about it because there's like so much interesting stuff happening with like. Yeah. This, technology, which is like a ticket to things. And then like these like tokens attached to them, and this way of like artists like getting money for the things that they sell and like not being limited by gallery space. And it just feels like this beginning of this massive thing. Yeah. And I want to say, as we get into this, like, I think you might be the person who like of my social sphere, when I saw you talking about the Bored Ape Yacht Club and things, you were so early. And I'm like, if Cesar's into this, there must be something here. And it caused me to go down a rabbit hole of learning. And I just feel like you've just like had this seat at the front. And so I think before we get into the specifics of like the different projects and stuff, I've tried to describe this myself, but I would love for you to just say like to the audience who is, I would say they've heard the term NFT, they've heard non-fungible token. What is an NFT really, and what does it enable?
Yeah. So at the base level, NFT is just a digital one of one, meaning it is a unique digital item, right? The way that I'll usually describe it to someone, like in my family or something, it's like, look, if I have a $1 bill in my pocket and you have a $1 bill in your pocket and we just decide to switch them, nothing changes, right? You can go with my $1 bill to the store and turn it into bubble gum, and I can do the same. But if I have a painting and you have a painting and mine's of a dog and yours is of a cat, like they're different and they were different artists, different everything, right? There are no two of them. And so that's really all an NFT is. I always like to say the least interesting thing you could do with an NFT is point a wallet at a JPEG. It's what most people think about with an NFT right now because it's the easiest thing you could do with an NFT. It's what everybody's doing, and it's really easy and cheap, and everybody's just throwing stuff at the wall because it's like we're in the draconian experimental stage of NFTs where everybody's just like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what lands. There are no rules yet. We're in the wild west of the space. That also means that 99% of NFTs are crap and unfortunately probably they get the most attention. And so what we can do with the digital ownership, we've barely begun to scratch the surface of what that means. But you mentioned earlier like ticketing or something, right? Like ticketing is there's a term in the space that is being getting more and more popular to use, which is it's skeuomorphic. And skeuomorphic essentially means that like a lot of NFT things are just like pointing at something in the real world.
Like you're saying, instead of me getting a ticket to go to a Red Sox game and I like might have a digital ticket, instead that's replaced with an NFT. But it's basically like, it's not that different really.
Right. It's like, it's still just a ticket. Any website could have made that exist, right? Without a blockchain, right? Like it's just like, oh yeah, just open up this app and scan, right? Like people already do. And so like that's a skeuomorphic use of the technology. Can you do it? Of course you can. But is it interesting? Like I think we'll look back in years as people start innovating in the space and think about all the things that we thought were interesting or whatever, but a lot of them were probably just like copycat, do the exact same thing but digitally. One of the early obsessions that I had at the beginning of my journey, I got really into a platform called Art Blocks. And that really spoke to my art school sensibilities, in that like it's a generative art platform where an artist is creating a piece of code that he sets the rules. He'll say, look, here's what this code creates, and you're going to see the first one, and that's it. And you're going to pay, say at the time, 0.1 ETH to click a mint button, and randomly the parameters of that code will be adjusted based on all sorts of criteria, and you are going to get a version of this, but not this one. Yeah. And only 1,000 people are going to get that. The most famous one is one called by Tyler Hobbs called Fidenza. So if you look at a Fidenza, they all look totally different from each other. But if you look at all of them, they are obviously all part of the same family. Like they're clearly all fidenzas, right? And it's kind of hard to describe until you see it. Most of the time when I show people, they're like, whoa, like they get it all of a sudden, right? And they see it. That's a great example of like, that is a combination of non-schemorphic things. That is, this could not have existed without a blockchain. For me, what was most exciting about paying attention to art blocks, as you know, in those early days, was, wow, this is like this is what I've been thinking about since I was in art school, which is what happens when these people in art school can code. Like, what does that look like? And that was for watching art blocks explode was like, wow. So like now artists can code, and this is what art looks like when you converge those two things. And I think one of the reasons I've been so obsessed with the space is because I spent 10 years in art, and then I spent 10 years in tech, and as soon as NFTs, the word NFT was like, what does that mean? Like it's just like it's the convergence of these two kind of things, at least for now.
I feel like you said this in the art piece, but I feel like just like really cement it home, which is like this idea that, okay, pre-NFT, pre-digital art, I'm a painter. I make this painting. I make another painting. I've made 10 paintings. People can see that like I'm the painter on all of them. They like them. There's only 10. They're all different. And then in this world, it's like, all right, I'm going to write code, and you're going to, when you click a button, you're going to like pay to get this art put onto the blockchain. So we know that one person owns it effectively, and it's generatively created. And now there's 10 or there's 100 or there's 10,000 people can get pieces of art can be created. And, you know, there's the Fidenzas and the Ringers and all these other ones that are like very cool and very interesting. And then people can go and buy them. And if the value of the art goes up, just as it would in the traditional world, instead of like those first 10, you know, they get sold to me and then it's all secondary sales. There's also this concept, right, with NFTs that you can, because it's a contract, you can have like rules written into it. So Tyler Hobbs makes Fidenzas, and then as they're all sold again and again and again, he gets a percentage of every sale, right?
It's the holy grail of what most artists have had to deal with their entire like lives as a problem and thing that has never had a proper solution. You know, I have so many friends that I went to art school that, you know, either are 6 months still trying to like send invoices to clients being like, hey, you still haven't paid me. Like, you know, I have friends who, you know, provided art for something that exploded, and they, you know, well, you signed the contract that said we paid you $100. So, I mean, you know, contract complete, right? Like they don't see any benefits or money for some of the work that they've done that became, you know, important. Right now I'm speaking with a couple of people in the comic book industry. That's the perfect example of artists that created the IP that basically runs Hollywood today. Movie theaters are making money off of superheroes, created by a ton of artists that aren't seeing any money for that, right? And on and on and on. And what this finally solves for, or at least so far, and it's working, is actually having an artist create a piece of art and contractually, immutably on the blockchain, always get a residual of every secondary sale, which is absolutely crazy and complete game changer. And the things that artists are even doing to like think about creatively using that superpower is astonishing. You know, like the more and more you pay attention to it.
That's awesome. Okay, we have a lot of stuff to cover. What is the Bored Ape Yacht Club for people who don't know?
Yeah. How deep should I go? Okay, I'm going to give you my version of history.
Give us your version.
I'll give you my version of history. Here's what happened. One of the original like NFT projects was CryptoKitties. You could breed these cats, and basically that alone brought down the Ethereum network back in like 2017.
Yeah.
And that team was like took those learnings and said, hey, let's make a different blockchain that allows for, you know, like this will never be mainstream if it can't handle just one project with a couple of people breeding cats. So they built something called Flow. They launched it with NBA Top Shots, which is essentially NBA basketball cards that are digital. And perfect example of being non-schemorphic. Instead of just taking photos and being like, here's a card, they made the moments be video, and they're 3D, and like it's every angle of a given play, and on and on. And the thing is, at the very beginning when they launched, nobody was paying attention. Nobody's like, and they were expensive, like, and for a lot of people. And so right around now, it actually like picked up steam, and it kind of blew up in the basketball community. You went from like 50,000 people in the NFT space, probably less, I'm being like generous, like to 500,000 people showing up like overnight because of NBA Top Shots.
And because they understood what that was. They're like, this is a new version.
It's IP,
it's different.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm an NBA fan. I like basketball cards. These are digital basketball cards. And so at that point in time, this is what happens. A lot of those people are like, hey, this NFT thing's pretty cool. What else you got? Right? They start looking around the space. They want to learn more. Like, this is amazing. What else is here? And CryptoPunks is like the thing. It was like $20,000 or $50,000 to own a CryptoPunk because they were the original quote unquote PFP profile photo project from like 2017. That was the first collection of 10,000, tiny little characters that are each unique. The thing with the CryptoPunks is like they were already kind of like the Illuminati of the NFT space, because what owning a CryptoPunk meant at that point in time was one of two things. You're OG, so you've been in the Ethereum kind of NFT thing for now like since 2017, or you're rich. That's the community. And remember, these NBA Top Shots guys, they're not rich. They're just guys who like basketball cards. And so they're priced out of a CryptoPunk, right? And so all of a sudden, April and May comes around, and the Bored Apes show up as a PFP project. Now, back then, today, there are like 30 NFT PFP projects launching every day. But back then, there was like a project launching like every 2 to 3 days. So when the Bored Apes kind of came up, that community latched on, like, you're talking to like 500,000 people, right? Like, or let's call it 100,000 people who are paying attention to the NFT space below, beyond the NFT Top Shots. Were like, this is our CryptoPunks. This is our, like, this speaks to us. This is like our identity compared to any other project that was launching at the time. That like, people bought it as a speculative bet or whatever. People who bought it, Bored Apes, were like, quote unquote diamond handed. The Bored Apes really kind of initiated something that hadn't really been done in the space yet at that point in time, which is to say, owning this Bored Ape is essentially your membership into the club. The Bored Apes essentially became like the PayPal mafia, or whatever, right, of like the NFT space, because there was just like such a huge congregation of people, and because they were also the first ones to really say like, you have the IP rights, and like really lean into it. They all took their apes, built IP around their personal, like, apes that they were building, and so even more so, they were unincentivized to sell. There was also another thing I think that was considerable that happened. It's a very common thing in the space now, but they got this train running of like this hashtag on Twitter of like ape follow ape. And so basically the community actually created essentially a social network around itself, where like my Twitter feed became Bored Apes, just because the algorithm saw that I was engaging with that stuff.
And now Twitter's added support for like NFT profile photos, and you can verify that like people actually, if you have an ape as an example, like you really do own it.
Yeah.
It seems like it's almost self-organizing the opposite way things would normally go, right? Like normally there'd be a social network that exists and people would try to find folks to connect with each other on. And what you're saying is, in this case, like it's all these people who figured this thing out early. And it's like, instead of being at like South by Southwest and like trading phone numbers with each other or trading like Twitter handles, it's like the group self-organized on this thing of like, oh, we've realized that digital ownership's real. And then now that's still propagating and evolving. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. Twitter's the first metaverse. Not 3D. We're not all walking around talking to each other like Ready Player One. But it's just like, it's what we got. And those profile photos, are our first quote unquote gallery. It's a huge, point of identity for people. The 500,000 people who showed up into the NFT shores with NBA Top Shows were primarily men. And so the space was just primarily men, which is like awful. But then over the last couple of months, as more and more women are arriving into the space, I mean, like there's just all this other stuff now that's wonderful and different and new, that's finally, diversifying itself. As the demographics continue to shift, I think that's there's a couple of projects that have created cemented communities that I think are gonna, not going anywhere.
Okay, so we're almost out of time, but I want to ask two things really quick. So you have your own NFT project, Illuminati.
Yeah.
Why'd you launch your own project?
I it's like anything else, just like 1 second every day. It started out as like, I got some ideas, blah blah blah, and then started talking to a friend. One of my best friends was like an amazing artist, and we're just starting like, you know what I haven't seen. It's so early that it's like so easy to come up with ideas. Like it's just like my mind's just going racing a mile a minute. And then a friend of mine, Alex Taub, who is the founder of a company called Upstream that is essentially built like a DAO in a box. We came up on this space together, like paying attention to everything. So he had an idea for an NFT project, and then all three of us just kind of we were like, we should all three of us work together. Like we each hit on like totally different like parts of the equation here, and the idea of like what we were trying to do kind of evolved into a DAO itself. Did really well. We sold out in like 13 seconds in our public sale, and half of the money that went to the mint went into a DAO that is going to be voted on with the entire community, with in regards to all the stuff we're going to do. So, but yeah, it's really exciting. It's just so much fun. It started out as a little side project, and then like one day I was just like, did I accidentally start a second company? Like, maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it seems like that's how you started the first one too. It's like, oh wait, did I start a company and make an app that I continue to build? Okay.
Yeah, I think the idea of like, I'm gonna build a company is not the way that my brain functions. It's more like I just start working on something I think is fun or interesting, and then maybe one day I wake up and I realize that it's turned into more, just because like my natural obsession just kind of kept feeding it. And I think that's the stuff where I'm most passionate and most useful and most suited for my own talent. So I'm pretty pumped about it.
All right, well, I want to take that moment, which is you're obviously, well, I'll say you're a little passionate about NFTs. You're extremely passionate about NFTs. I feel like you and I could talk about this for a long time.
Hours.
And I think probably once we stop recording, we'll keep talking. But,
I'm here.
I also think it's interesting at this moment because so many people have been so burnt out during the pandemic.
Totally.
Right. And they felt like this like stagnation or lack of creative fulfillment. They've grown their pandemic hair. They've been in a creative rut. And I like, for those people who are listening, who want what you have right now in terms of like the passion that you have, like what advice would you give them? Like, is it just NFTs? How do you stay passionate? How do you scratch the creative itch when things are remote and things are unpredictable?
I think the number one trait that I feel very lucky I have is just I'm just like curious about everything, and I don't know if that's nature or nurture. I don't know if it's curiosity is a gene or curiosity is something you can kind of like instill in somebody, but it like it's the solution to like everything. I think it's empathy. It solves for every possible kind of thing, and yeah, I don't know how to make somebody curious, but I think the more you just pull on threads, and you end up landing in places you never like. The fact that like this NFT thing was happening a year ago, right? Invisible to like 99.9999% of people or whatever, and everybody always wants to figure out like how could I be early to the next thing, right? Like I don't want to learn about the Bored Apes when they're worth 100 ETH, right? Like I want to learn about the Bored Apes when they're like at the beginning, and why are they interesting? Like for me, I just went on the Discord and I just started lurking, and that led to some interesting. Like what is he talking about? I had to Google, like they throw words around, and one thing led to another, and I think that's usually how everything happens for me.
Well, I think that's great advice that people should lurk more. And
I lurk a lot.
No, but I think it is actually, it's funny because like your experience is my experience just with NFTs specifically, but I realize it's repeated itself over and over and over with different topics over the years and different things, has been like, well, how do I change and adapt my social network and like on social media in particular, like to give me the feeds of things that I wasn't seeing. And I think I've gotten better at trying to like subscribe and cut. It's the realization that all this stuff is happening all around us. And it's really just like, you have to decide where do you want to put your attention and where do you want to learn? And I think it is really good advice. It's just like, find the things you want to learn about and get really deep, and if you find those things really early, that's where we're talking about NFTs, but I think it's very analogous to like almost any business idea or creative endeavors. Like how do you find the group that's so passionate? How do you get yourself to be a part of that community? And usually just by putting yourself out there and asking some questions and lurking. It's cool to see you go on this journey because I feel like it feels like it's been longer than a year.
It's so much has happened in the last 8 months. I can't even there's no way to quantify it. It's wild.
Well, I guess if people are interested and they want to learn more about NFTs, they want to learn more about you, where should they go?
Oh man, I'm probably not the best person. Like, I mean, yeah, sure. I lurk on Twitter. I mostly lurk. I read and I follow people, but I actually tell people who want to learn about NFTs sometimes, and they're like, well, who should I follow on Twitter? I was like, I don't know. I follow like 1,000 people who are interesting NFT people. Just follow everybody I follow. Like, just create a dummy account. Create a new account and just follow. And just recreate my account. Just like follow everybody I follow. Yeah, I it's my name at Cesar Kuriyama at all the things.
I'm also laughing because I feel like you're saying don't follow me, basically. You're like don't follow me. And
I just don't think I'm useful.
As your friend and as someone who follows you, and I learned about this, I would say from you. So that's what's really making me laugh.
Right,
like
sweet. That makes me feel good. All right.
Yeah. All right. Well. Look, dude, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing this with us. I know we only just scratched the surface, but I think this is a topic that everyone's trying to understand. So I really appreciate you sharing the knowledge and opening the book a little bit.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure. And NFTs are going to touch every part of everything eventually. It's just early, and there's only certain communities that arrive to the space, but. That's what's exciting is that if you have a community that has still not been served by the NFT space, it means that you just have to dig a little bit to see where, like the Dungeons and Dragons people are going to be NFT people. I mean, they were playing World of Warcraft, like years ago and selling the swords that they got at the cave on eBay for $100. Like this is all like they're just not here yet. Like the games haven't been built yet that actually take advantage of this technology. Anyways, I can rant, but it's my pleasure, and I can, like I said, I'm happy to rant about this anytime, Chris.
You guys went deep.
Well,
we went deep.
We went deep. I think we could have gone deeper, as you know, because we stopped recording and then Cesar and I didn't shut up for like another 15 minutes.
Yep.
So, oops.
Okay. Well, here are some things. As an NFT outsider and somewhat skeptic / somewhat confused, I will say that today's interview does have me thinking about NFTs differently. In a few different ways. I still have a lot of questions, but Cesar said, like, stay curious, always be lurking. So maybe it's my turn to lurk. Maybe this is what I needed to hear.
It's time for you to jump in some Discords and see what the hell's going on.
Oh my God, the ETH, the Discords. You guys are talking in tongues.
Do you know what ETH is?
It's just like the currency.
It's Ethereum, the blockchain and the currency. Do you know what Discord is?
The platform?
Discord is
like where you
Slack.
talk.
It's like Slack.
Where you talk to each other.
But yeah.
Okay,
good.
What else?
Great.
Was there another term in there?
He said ape in.
Fucking ape in. Sorry.
That's what everyone calls it. I mean, the best part is that after we finished recording, Cesar and I just kept talking for like 15 minutes.
Yep.
And he's like, I really tried to hold back on my Web3 lingo. And he did.
You're like,
I think he did hold back.
And I'm just like...
We did talk about some serums. We did talk about some mutants. Yeah.
What happened to like making chicken soup?
I mean, you could still make chicken soup. That's fine. Actually, to his point, there's probably an opportunity for an NFT chicken soup community.
There is. I'm going to be right at the helm of that. That's my sweet
Here's
spot.
A community of people who they just think, you know what? Why isn't there more of an emphasis on chicken soup? Why aren't we talking about like how al dente the noodles are and what kind of stock we're using? And that could be the different rarities. You could have like true organic free range is like, only less than 1% gets that. And you could have, the ones that have purple carrots are more rare. So you end up with these soups that are like really rare, and then you have just the regular basic ones, the floor chicken soups that anyone can have.
The floor chicken soups. Thank you.
I think this could be a thing.
Thank you for planting this seed. I feel inspired. But I was inspired. 1 second every day is such a cool idea. And I feel like you said it changes your memory, but I feel like it also makes you seek out sort of special moments. Like it's not just like, oh, I remember that, but it helps you try to find those moments throughout a day that might feel monotonous or, repetitive, whatever. Like you're like, oh, like I took a walk and this nice thing happened. I'm rambling now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny as you were saying that, what it was making me think of was, I've gone through different moments in time when I did 1 second every day. And like one moment that I've gone back to was when the pandemic started, and like the photos I was taking right before and videos. And then right when it was happening, I shot a bunch of stuff with my kids, like at playgrounds and stuff before, as they were shutting playgrounds down, when we didn't really understand like how long lasting this was going to be or whatever. And it's interesting because I assumed that all the photos and the moments I would capture would be kind of like dark and sad. But the truth is when I go back and look, like you can tell when it started, but not really. Like, yeah, I'm more at home and my kids are more at home, but like there's still all these fun and silly moments and stuff. And it's like almost like I would encourage people, if you haven't done it, to go back and look. Cause I think 1 second every day is a great way to do it, is like look at that moment of like actual resiliency that we all have of getting through and managing just such an enormous change. And I think it's like a cool way to kind of capture that.
Love that. Listeners, viewers, you have homework. But fun homework.
Yeah. And I think the other thing we should say is obviously we're recording episodes now on video, which is changing some stuff. We're trying to get it figured out, but we want you to know what to expect, which is we're going to continue to get the audio episodes out every other week. Sometimes the video episodes will be out at the same time. Sometimes they'll be out after. We're kind of figuring it out, and we want your feedback. So tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like.
Email us.
Yeah, email us.
ttlpod@wistia.com. Rate.
Email us. Subscribe. That's right. Subscribe.
Rate.
Rate us. I think you said wait.
Said rate with an R.
Okay. Yes. We do appreciate if you rate the podcast wherever you listen or view it. That's super helpful. And I think that's basically it, Sylvie, right?
That's a wrap.
All right. That's a wrap. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.